back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. And viewers, we are continuing to track what's going on with the oil spill and the effects that it's having on our coast. And of course, we heard from Team there is a lot of progress being made. We're not out of the woods yet. We're going to be in this situation for like another 3 weeks. So be prepared for this to be an ongoing thing over the next 3 weeks. But in the meantime, there is a major part of the impact is happening in the Petitrew mangroves. Of course, those are the mangroves that are right next to where the wreck is. And interestingly enough, when you're out at the wreck, the bow of the ship is actually like facing the Petitrew mangroves. It's almost as if pointing to the Petitrew mangroves. But I mean, that might be an omen. We don't know. But you know, just something interesting to point out. I'm joined right now by Mr. McCoon, and he is the PRO of the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program. And so, special good morning and welcome to you first.
Good morning, Kandace. Thank you, as always, for having me. We have a crisis on our hands, not just a social crisis that affects tourism and other things, but an environmental crisis. As you know, we have the oil-like substance, I'm being careful, washing up on the shores. We saw it at the areas adjacent to the Scarborough Harbour and the port facilities. We saw it at Ambo Beach, and we also saw the effects of it in the Petitrew Lagoon and the mangroves adjacent.
So as I mentioned, you know, and as we're speaking, the Petitrew Lagoon is actually trapping a whole lot of the oil. Thankfully, we have some oil booms out there now that are preventing further from getting into the lagoon. But the challenge is cleaning up what's there.
Yes.
Tell me about what's going on right now.
All right. As we know, the Tobago Emergency Management Authority has done their part. They have been making a stellar contribution in this, disaster, and hats off to them and Mr. Stewart and his team with the CERT volunteers and the CERT personnel. So hats off to them for that. In terms of the recovery effort, we now have to assess how much of the oil-like substance has actually been trapped, encapsulated in the Petitrew Lagoon and the mangroves adjacent. What I would say is that that area has, for quite some time now, I would say over the past 4 to 5 years or so, experienced a certain amount of dieback already. And you yourself would have toured that area along the walk in the Tobago Plantations property. And you saw some of the dieback that was already occurring. So this can now contribute to exacerbating that situation. And we now have to see how much of that substance has been absorbed. And only can we make a pronouncement on what the recovery methodology would look like and what it would entail and how much it would cost. Because we would need to put a cost to that.
What do we know at this point in time?
Right. So what we know, we've had reports, we've had photos. I myself went down reports from property owners in Tobago Plantations. We have seen the effects of it from the boardwalk side, and we also from the lagoon side, we have seen that the influx has happened. The booms are there now, which is providing some kind of relief or at least stop additional absorbing or influx into the mangrove ecosystem. What we know right now is that the area that was significantly affected by dieback is the area that has been absorbing the majority of the oil-like substance. From that, we can say, well, okay, you know, it's either we decide that this is dead based on the scientific assessment. Of course, we would be guided by the scientific aspect of it. We would have to ask the experts what they think. We have the IMA, you have the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, who will also give their feedback. And based on the scientific data and information, then we'll be able to make a pronouncement on what percentage is not going to make it, what percentage can be recovered, and what the what would look like.
Are there any preliminary notes that both the IMA and the EMA has been given at this point in time?
I actually have a discussion later today with some representatives from the IMA, and they will then share their observations and their notes with us. And we as a station are committed. As you know, the mangrove ecosystem is a green space. It may be a marine or coastal green space, but it is in fact a green space, and that is concerning to us. So what we would now do is, based on the scientific data and information, we would now put together a report to propose a project or some sort of effort that would be very specific and pointed to the Petit-Trou Lagoon, the Petit-Trou mangrove ecosystem, and to see how best we can form, how best we can recovery effort, whether it may be a mangrove reforestation project or some other sort of initiative that can bring some relief.
Are you guys concerned at this point in time at all about it in terms of, is there the possibility we can lose it entirely, or what's the concern level like?
All right, I think we're quite concerned. Now, for years, the past 3 to 4 years, Kandace, you yourself know I have been talking about that particular mangrove ecosystem. We have had sargassum influxes. We've had reports of dumping. We've had all the debris coming from boats and so on, and other marine activities making its way into the mangrove ecosystem, and that would have contributed to garbage pileup and sargassum pileup, which contributes to the dieback that we see. So with this now, it is even more alarming and concerning for us. So again, as I said, we'll be guided by the science, and we would now put our shoulders to the wheel to propose to our parent division and any other agencies that are interested on how we could have a restoration effort. And I would say that there are some areas that have already over the years demonstrated that it would take a lot to recover. But I still believe that there's some kind of hope once we get the area sufficiently cleaned, and once we get the area, well, at least once all of the oil-like substance has been removed from the immediate area.
How are we cleaning it right at this point in time? What methods are being used?
Right. So I believe TIMA would have partnered with Kaizen Engineering, and also and they would have been sucking, or there would have been trucks on hand between Lambo Beach and a few other areas affected, sucking out all of the oil-like substance to extract, with a view of extracting the substance from those coastal areas, in etc. So there's that mechanism. Then there's the booms to stop any further seeping into, or seepage or influx into the lagoon itself. So those two methodologies, plus the beach cleanups, plus the volunteers being out, we are really, really, really making an effort to get this thing sorted out. I believe all hands are on deck. Tobago has really showed up in terms of us coming together as a collective across all agencies, whether it may be volunteers, whether it may be time, expertise, people with scientific expertise. Everybody has really put their contribution and their time in, and we're really, really grateful for that. Reforestation continues to observe the situation, and in any which way we can propose a program over the next few months to rehabilitate that mangrove ecosystem as such.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. McCoon, for being on with us and for giving us a perspective on what's been happening with our mangroves. And we are certainly going to be looking on very closely to see what can be done, how that can be restored. And let's hope that damage to one of our very sensitive eco areas.
Absolutely. And again, we remain committed. I think everybody is concerned at this time. And not just for the ecological or environmental challenges and drawbacks, right? But also the social aspect. that area is sensitive. You have crustaceans, you have other marine life, crabs, etc. And
there's a
fish.
tourism value as well
That's
to
correct.
it.
That's correct. So many a photo shoot, many a, social activity would happen in and around that area. Kayaking, water sports, and so on. So it is impacted. It has indeed impacted many different sectors, tourism, the social aspect of it. You name it, we have to combat it, and we together have a duty and responsibility to act now.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. McCoon. And viewers, that's how we're going to have to wrap up. Please stay tuned later on this afternoon in thereabouts about 3:30. We are expecting to have a press conference from Chief Secretary Fali Augustine to give us further updates on the situation. And of course, you can always tune in to our news at 6:30 for more details as well. So hope you have a safe and wonderful day, and we would see you.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawn.